In this video, we're going to take a look at rebuilding one of my pedal boards with the help of the GigRig QuarterMaster QMX-8 and also the GigRig Three2one, which allows me to control the volume of two different guitars and just make life a lot easier. If that's something of interest, check it out.
All right, on the workbench today, we've got one of my pedal boards, and just sitting here looking at it, realize I've come a long way. My only expertise in pedals is how to acquire them and buy them. And for years, the only real pedals I ever used were an EQ pedal to drive the front end of my Super Reverb, the foot switch for a Super Reverb, vibe and trem switches, and the reverb was pretty much always on. And I would sometimes use a wah pedal and sometimes use an overdrive pedal, which I never really liked for years. That was it. And then I acquired a rotary type pedal, and it's slowly grown since then. Also, watching that pedal show has made me an expert in acquiring more pedals. I've gone on a couple year-long bender to try and find an overdrive that I really like, and that's what's led me to the King of Tone, which I'm extremely happy with. I really like the Wampler. This is the Ace 30 to give it a little bit of chime on the clean. I really like the Wampler Plexi Drive for the occasional Marshall-esque sound that I'd like to get. I love Keeley Electronics, the Red Dirt Overdrive for a nice, smooth, rich overdrive for some songs. A delay pedal I never really use, and more on that in a minute. A new Leslie rotary type pedal, and then a reverb and tremolo Strymon Flint, and then the Katana Clean Boost. And I really like all of these pedals, and I don't use them a lot. I mean, I use the King of Tone overdrive the most. But one thing I realized is that I don't like jumping all over the pedals as I need them, and I feel like I would use the delay a little bit more. I might use the Leslie a little bit more if it was just simpler. And this is not a complex board by any stretch. Pretty straightforward, but I don't like doing the dance. And so we're gonna strip this thing apart and rebuild it using GigRig QuarterMaster and a GigRig Three2one, because for years, as my pedals were simple, I've always been a Stratocaster kind of guy, and I've come to find a Les Paul that I really like. Did quite a bit of work to it to get it playing well and touch up some finish damage. So now it's like going back and forth between the Stratocaster and a Les Paul. This will allow me to balance out those levels. So we're going to get to these in a little while. The other thing that I found amusing was looking at, as I buy all these used pedals, most people have the Velcro opposite of what I usually do. I usually have the soft side, which I don't even know, is it the hook or the loop? I don't know. I think this is the loop. And I noticed that most of the people that I would buy a used pedal from that left Velcro on there, it was opposite. So what I'm going to do is I've already switched one of my pedal boards to having the softer material on the board and the, I believe it's the hook on the pedal, so that if you just set it on the carpet, it doesn't really move. So I kind of like that idea. I've always felt like I had it backwards. I don't think there's a right or wrong. It's a personal opinion. But I'm going to go ahead and switch that out, and I'll run into some issues removing this old adhesive, so I'll get into that as well. Right now, all of these are in series, so I'm coming into my tuner and I'm making my way through all of this stuff. And I usually have 15 feet of cable coming in and 15 feet of cable coming out. I haven't noticed any significant degradation in the tone, but I'm going to put that QuarterMaster on there and loop everything individually so that it's not just tied all the way through all of these pedals. And the other thing that I like is, if I'm going to switch quickly, usually it's between one of my overdrives. I want to switch to something else. And so that has a function that you can set which loop you want to simply switch as you press another button, or if you want the other switches to just add on to it. So that'll be kind of fun. I'm really kind of excited about that, and then have all my controls right up front. I'll probably be making some changes. I think I'm going to get rid of the Strymon Flint. I shouldn't say get rid of. I'm going to put that on a different board. I've got a Keeley hook reverb, and I want to say thank you to Keeley. I bought this used and contacted them about a part. There was a problem with the jack. I bought it used. That was fine. Contacted them to ask them like what specific part could I get to replace that, and they wanted to fix it, which I was amazed, because in my opinion they're not under any obligation to fix a pedal that I buy used, but they really said they would, and I sent it to them. I had to pay the shipping to get it to them. But then they fixed this for me, and I really couldn't believe it. I love Keeley pedals. I've got a couple here. I've got a few more. So I'm going to put this on this board, and I'm going to move the Strymon to kind of my medium-sized board because I'll have access to both switches. And what I'd really like to do is put the QuarterMaster on there and not have to hop around. I suspect I'll still have to on occasion, but for the most part I'll be able to do all my switching right from the front, and that's what I want to do. So let's zip it and get to taking this apart. All the cables I make, they're Mogami, and I use switchcraft ends. I use all kinds of different ends. So I'm going to tear all this stuff out and take a look at what's happening with this, and also switch out the velcro. Okay, so now I've got all the pedals removed, and I know there are a lot of options and people have their own preferences for pedal board tape versus Velcro versus zip ties. I'm just going to stick with the Velcro, but to take this off is going to usually mean quite a bit of adhesive left behind. So I'm going to heat this with a heat gun, try to peel it off to get it to come off a little bit cleaner. And then any residual adhesive, I'm going to use a little bit of naphtha. You could use Goo Gone. I think the main component in Goo Gone is xylene. So I'm just going to use naphtha to get that off. But let's heat this up first. If I heat it too much, I'm just going to melt things. But that comes off pretty clean. A little bit of adhesive right there on that corner. I'm going to keep going. At the start, if it doesn't come off clean, I'll heat it longer, but really I'm just kind of warming things up. And it comes off nice and clean that way. Don't want to get things too hot. So this is just a little bit of naphtha. Zippo lighter fluid would work. A lot of people would have that on hand. The main spot that I have is over here. And so naphtha is a good cleaner, degreaser, and it'll remove adhesive as well. It evaporates quickly. So as long as I have things off of there, I'm just going to clean the whole surface. I don't think you need to, but there are a few spots of adhesive left behind. So you can see it evaporates quickly, which is one of the things that's nice about it versus mineral spirits or other solvents. And I'll turn the cloth to a fresh spot, because if you have a lot of adhesive, it'll get on your rag and you're kind of just diluting the adhesive and smearing it all over the place. Naphtha is flammable. So that's pretty nice and clean. Alright, so now at this point, board is clean. I have made the mistake of cutting this stuff with a scissors, which will work, but the scissors gets pretty messed up and you'd have to clean up your scissors with some naphtha after the fact. Okay, so a couple things I'm thinking about as I get to this point. For anyone that actually watches this video and is concerned as I'm using the heat gun about my power supply being on there, I should emphasize that you don't have to get the surface hot. If it's warm to the touch, it'll peel off. So I wasn't too concerned about overheating this or causing any issues with that. And within just a few seconds afterwards, you know, by the time I was done, the board itself was pretty cool. So now I've got that on there. I'm gonna trim this excess off. And nearly every time I use a knife of any kind, I think of my grandpa yelling at me to cut away from myself when I was about 8 years old. I don't remember what I was doing at 8 years old with a knife, but I do remember him yelling at me. Alright, so that looks good. And now it's time to think about the layout. Alright, so I think QuarterMaster will go right about there. I think the 3-to-1 is going to have the first input preamp on, and that'll be for my Strat style guitars. The Peterson is a true bypass tuner, so I think I'll be inputting to the 3-to-1 to the tuner because I don't want to burn up a loop with my tuner at this point. And then I'll go out of there into the QuarterMaster and then start my loop. I think I want my reverb towards the end, and I think I would like probably, I don't have Velcro on everything, but the delay, the trem, and then I think I want my King of Tone early in the signal, the Red Dirt overdrive, and then that Wampler. I think I want the chime kind of after that. So if I put the tremodillo down here, I could get at the speed. Ace 30, I kind of like the idea of having it up there. Leslie might want to output from the QuarterMaster to the Katana and then out. Perhaps would look something like this. Flip these, I suppose. Got inputs on the top of that guy. That gets a little more challenging. Side inputs, top inputs. And then as I start using it and figuring out what I like and don't like, I can move some things around. So, I think I'm going to go with Velcro on this for right now. I bet there's a reason why I should prefer the brackets. I think since that's going to get the brunt of the pushing, I think I will put the brackets on. But for the moment, we go Velcro. I never like to put the Velcro on the stickers, so I always want to leave Velcro away from stickers. Input 1 will be my Strat, preamp will be on, leave a little bit of space for the cable, and this is just my first guess at how this is going to go. We'll see how this works. If I were a touring musician and this thing was on the road all the time, I would put a lot more Velcro on here. But because I'm just a weekend warrior playing occasional gigs, I leave them on a little lighter. So now it's going to be time to do the patching. So I want to go out of my 3-to-1 and I want to go into the tuner. That's a pretty big tuner. So now I've got from the 3-to-1 to the tuner to the tuner to the QuarterMaster, and then I can do my loops. I do think I'm going to leave the Katana out. All right, let's see here. So we have got a little Champ kit going. The dry tone. A Champ with a little bit of reverb. Alright, so we got the pedal board done, and it came out really well coming into the 3-to-1 and going out to the tuner, which is true bypass, and going out of that to the QuarterMaster, and then I've got 3 overdrives in a row, and it is set to switch between the 3 different overdrives. And then I've got the Wampler Ace 30, which I just call chime, can be turned on its own. I got a Leslie, a delay, tremolo, and then I've got a reverb, but for this I'm going to use the amplifier. The amplifier is a 1968 or 69 Fender Super Reverb that I've had for a good long time. It's got a lot of the blackface mods, and I thought I would rediscover it since looking at this board is ironic to me at this point because I used to hardly ever use any pedals. So let's get a sample of this clean tone. I'm using a made in Mexico Stratocaster with MojoTone Quiet Coil 59s in it.